I'm back out here in Scotland. I just got back from London and Hastings, and it was an absolutely amazing trip. I'm going to go into a little about what happened in this video, and I'm also going to be time traveling back to 2022 a little bit to explain about some of the things I wrote back then about the Lewis Chessmen, and then I'm going to be linking that up to now because I'm in Edinburgh, and apparently some of those Lewis chessmen are actually here. So I'm going to go and have a look at them in person for the first time. I'll explain what those are a little bit into this video because I wrote about them in my book of Hermes, and there's some very, very fascinating connections. So it's going to be amazing to actually see these for the very first time in person. First of all, though, the reason that I went over to London was because I wanted to see Robert Plant perform. And I've always been a massive fan of Led Zeppelin ever since early high school days. In fact, I think I was about 11 when I first got introduced to their music, and it was because I started having out-of-body experience symptoms back then, well before anyone around me had ever heard of astral projection or out-of-body experiences, so nobody could really explain what was going on. And I would wake up every night with the bed shaking and these electric shocks and vibrations through my body, much like a seizure, and there'd be these loud noises, and I was just thinking, what is this, what's going on? And I would ask people and nobody could tell me what it was. So at the time I did some searching online, and I found an amazing book by Robert Peterson called Out of Body Experiences, How to Have Them and What to Expect. And that was my very first introduction to being able to travel into other dimensions, and to find out that all these scary things that were happening to me were actually a platform through which I could go into parallel dimensions. So what had originally started out as terrifying became something that was very exciting, and I started to realize that means I can actually fly and walk through walls, and I can go places and remote view and all these things. So it became very exciting. And it was him that mentioned, or I think it was on his website, he mentioned Led Zeppelin's song Kashmir, because he was listing out a collection of different artists that had written songs that seemed to remind him of the astral travel experience. And there's a line in that song that says, I am a traveler of both time and space, to be where I have been, sit with elders of a gentle race this world has seldom seen. They talk of days for which they sit and wait, all will be revealed. These kinds of amazing lines and lyrics that are in those songs, and so that was my very first introduction to that band. And actually, when I drew all of my fairy sketches and pictures of the fairies that I could see in the other dimensions many years later, I was listening to Robert Plant's solo music the whole time when I was creating those in the background. So he's always been a very big part of my life. It's been like a soundtrack to a lot of the experiences that I've had with fairies. And so basically, to stand in the same room as him and be a matter of feet away, and to actually experience him in person, it felt truly like some kind of time travel to me, because it just felt like, from when I think of Led Zeppelin being in the 70s and I was born in the 90s, it already felt so long ago, like in this legendary mythical time almost. And then here it is, I'm experiencing it right in front of me. I'm seeing Robert Plant right there, and it brought me to tears, honestly, just to experience that in person. It was absolutely amazing. So I'm so glad that I went out there. I organized it about a month before, and I knew it was going to be a little difficult to organize everything. I had to get out to London from here and sort of organize it so that I would be able to get to the show just in time. And there were a lot of delays. The flight that I was supposed to be on got delayed, and it was only a matter of hours before I had to get to the show, and it takes an hour even once you get to the airport in London. So the time pressure was on, and I actually thought I was going to miss it. And I remember I ended up putting on Iron Maiden's song Somewhere in Time, because there's this line in that song which says, time is always on my side. And I used to listen to that a lot if anything sort of felt out of sync, or if there were delays and things like that. And it somehow seemed to make everything always work out in perfect time. Time is always on my side. So I actually put that song on while I was at the airport, and it was right after I listened to that the delay was lifted and I was finally able to fly. I've always felt Iron Maiden's music bring amazing luck like that. It felt like it sort of opened this doorway, and I later found out that actually, strangely, considering I listened to that song, that album, Somewhere in Time, was released on that exact day 39 years before. So it was very synchronistic, and that number 39, or in reverse 93, also became very significant to this whole trip, because basically when I was on the plane, the seatbelt that I had said number 93 on it, and next to me there was a person, and they had a backpack on, and the backpack said 93 on it, and the cost for my hotel where I was staying near where Robert Plant would be performing was £93. And then I got on the train from London to go out to Hastings to meet with David Tibet, who has a band called Current 93, and the train was 93 minutes from London to Hastings, although the train was also delayed, so that took significantly longer by the time I got there, but it's technically 93 minutes from there if it all went smoothly. So there was a lot of these strange connections, and I just find this interesting because when I'm speaking about it now, and I'm tying this video in to not only explaining about the things that happened there, but also with finding the Lewis Chessmen, what I find interesting is apparently there's also 93 Lewis Chessmen found, but that's jumping ahead a little bit. I'm going to go into what those are soon. But anyway, before I get too distracted, I wasn't deeply impressed with London itself, but of course it was well worth it to go to see Robert Plant in person. That was just an amazing show, indescribable, pure magic. And then when I actually went to Hastings from there, I absolutely loved it. And it was such a beautiful contrast from everything that I'd felt in London, because I don't really feel at home in London. And it's not just because of the busyness, because I love being out in New York. It was one of my favorite places. I feel that place in my soul. But with London, it just doesn't connect to me. It wasn't somewhere I really wanted to be, or I wouldn't have chosen to be there if it weren't for that. But I'm sure there's much there that would be interesting for many people. It just wasn't the place for me. But I still enjoyed it for the short time that I was there. Still got to sort of, trip around and have a look around. And I was in this amazing car that had this, sort of skylight thing. There was no roof on the whole back of the car, so you could just look up and see this beautiful sky. And this amazing driver just took me around. He was laughing about everything, eating all this candy, and just pointing all the things out, and he kind of gave me a tour of the city. So I really enjoyed it from that perspective, being in this car and just seeing it as an onlooker. But it's not somewhere where I would be choosing to live or something. Hastings, however, by contrast, was absolutely amazing. One of the most magical places I've ever visited in all my travels. There were some similarities there to New Zealand, to be honest. I really felt some connections there to that, but it was just an absolutely beautiful, amazing sea town, and I didn't know what to expect there. I'd made previous arrangements before going there to be meeting with David Tibet of the band Current 93, and they have been one of my absolute favorite bands since about 2013. And I've always been fascinated by David and his poetry, his amazing words, his art. Just him as an individual has always fascinated me. And he's really helped me over the years to really get in tune with my heart and just truth and purity of soul. And so it's always been a dream of mine to meet with him. And in fact, I have had many dreams where I did meet him, and then he would sort of vanish in mid-dream, and just when I would be asking something that I wanted to ask. And so I had emailed him a little bit back and forth when I was in America, and he'd been very kind then, and actually sent me all of these signed CDs. And when I first got to Hastings, it was immediately just one of the most welcoming, beautiful, amazing places. And it was, really by the sea, and it was just so peaceful. It's one of the most peaceful places I've ever been. And there was a lot of music, a lot of people just playing music on the street, and just a very free, chill vibe. you know, it just felt to me like somewhere that was very safe and peaceful, and I didn't know what to expect, honestly. So it was a really nice surprise to get there and to feel all of this. And I hadn't actually been on a train for a very long time, so to be on that was amazing too. And I was traveling backwards, so there was something very magical about sort of feeling this magnetic pull, and just kind of, it seemed like I was going backwards in time again, like some kind of portal or time travel, while I'm listening to this music of Current 93, which their music already creates these very hallucinatory effects of reality. Like if you're listening to their music with headphones while you're outside, everything will start shifting, and you might start seeing spirits or beings or things changing, because the music has this powerful effect that can change reality and cause you to, you know, see into the in-between dimensions. So I was experiencing all of this, and so when I finally got there, it was just this most amazing experience to be able to walk through the streets and feel this peace in the air, and everybody was so nice and peaceful. And I honestly just, it's got such a warm place in my heart. I would love to go back there again. It's just one of the most beautiful places. And when I got to meet him, and I don't want to go into too many details here about all of that, because I want to respect the privacy and everything, but I was able to speak with him for several hours, and I was able to ask just about everything that I had thought over the years that I wished I could ask, and including even things about Bernard Slay's ancient map of fairyland, which I was very amazed to find out that he was not only familiar with, but he owned and collected just about everything connected to it that you could imagine. And I was like amazed, because he was able to actually email me after we met with some amazing documents connected to it that you cannot find anywhere online. You can't even find mention of. In all of the searching and research that I've done of the map of fairyland and Bernard Slay, I hadn't even heard mention of some of these resources. So this was an amazing thing, to be sitting up on the top of the hill in Hastings after having met David in person, and, you know, still being so touched by this experience and feeling, how could this even be real? What kind of dream world am I in? And I'm looking out over the beautiful ocean with the moon there, and I'm listening to his music, and I'm crying there at night, and he's emailing me with these amazing resources connected to the fairy map. And I'm just like, how is all of this synchronizing, and how is all this coming together right now? It was indescribably amazing, and I don't want to taint it with too many words, but I just wanted to briefly mention here that it happened, that this amazing dream came true, and I got to experience that, and it just was a most beautiful thing that I really cannot easily put into words. And another of my favorite fairy authors is George MacDonald. I think some have said he actually helped to mentor Lewis Carroll. He was an amazing author who wrote a lot about fairyland, and he wrote this amazing book. It's one of my favorite books, called Fantasties, a fairy romance for men and women. And this is a very old book from, I think, the late 1800s or early 1900s. I cannot recall right off the top of my head, but it's an absolutely amazing book. And I've spent a long time tracing that whole book out on Bernard Slay's ancient map of fairyland, because I was familiar with a great many of the scenes and places and locations and descriptions that he gave in that book. I could recognize many of the locations from my own travels, my visionary travels to fairyland. So I can absolutely verify and say that the author had obviously traveled or was bringing information through that was accurate about fairyland into that book. And it reads as a first-hand account of somebody who's traveling through their world and experiencing all the things of a fairyland and describing them in first person, very similar to what I did when I went on my 40-day journey into the fairy worlds. But I suppose it would have been produced as a work of fiction or something like that, even though it's clearly referring to a very, very real location. And so he's always been one of my favorite fairy authors. And when I was speaking with David, he told me that George MacDonald, was that he used to live there in Hastings. This is something that I had no idea about. I knew that George MacDonald was Scottish, I think, but I didn't know where he had lived, and I hadn't actually looked into it. So I was amazed to actually be able to go and find George MacDonald's house and stand outside it, and it has this plaque there, and it has the dates, and I believe those dates correspond to when he wrote Fantastes, or when Fantastes actually was released. So it seems that he must have been living at that house while he wrote that, or at a time very, very close to that. So I was actually able to stand right outside George MacDonald's house and then explore the nearby areas, the hills and the woods and everything right next to his house where he had been when he clearly had these very strong fairy experiences. So I was walking through there feeling the magic of all of that, and a lot of the paths were actually, blocked out by these guardian spiders and spider webs, and you had to actually basically ask permission of the spiders to get by, and then they would crawl up the web if they were okay with you getting through, is how it felt to me. Because basically they would just be hanging down on a thread, and if you tried to walk through them, they would just be there, and then you could basically like communicate with them, and then they would go up and then you would go through, which is very similar to some of the experiences I'd had in the earth realms of fairyland that I talk about in my book of Earth. So I was able to go through these amazing paths and experience these incredible locations, and I just wanted to mention these amazing experiences that were able to occur while I was out there, and so much magic and so many miracles, all these things coming full circle and finally making sense to me. But yeah, there were a lot of things that tried to stop it happening before I got there. Like I said, the plane was heavily delayed before I could get to see Robert Plant, and I only just made it there in time. And then the one train that I had booked to Hastings also got cancelled. So I am not familiar with anything like that. Like, I barely even know how to use a train or a bus or anything like that. So I was very confused. I mean, I've been diagnosed with agoraphobia and severe anxiety. So the fact that I'm even out here is truly because of love. And if there's a strong enough reason and a driving force, then I can find a way. But it's not easy for me to even leave the house, let alone do all of these kinds of things. So I was basically just standing at this very busy station, and the one train that I finally understood how to actually understand how to read the things and how to get on the train, it got cancelled. So I had to go and speak to the people, and they said that they said something like, just get on this bus and go to this station, and then get that bus to here, and then get that train, and then that'll take you there. And I was thinking, I don't even know how to get a bus, how to find that location, which side of the street to be on. Like, I was very confused and worried about it. So eventually I ended up just jumping on some other train that took me to London Bridge, and then I had to ask several more people. So finally I did manage to get back, and now I'm back in Scotland. But yeah, I just wanted to update with all of that, and then I will explain what I'm about to do next. Okay, so I've got my laptop here, and I'm going to read out a little of what happened in 2022 to talk about these Lewis chessmen. And so I basically, when I was writing my book of Hermes in 2022, I was having these very interesting visionary experiences with Hermes, and he was teaching me these different things. And he taught me about wormhole portals. It was this very interesting thing. He was leading me to information at these caves that are at the very far south of the South Island of New Zealand, Te Anau Caves. And he mentioned to me that there's this underground hidden cave system, and that the public are only allowed up to a certain point, and that there's this whole other area. And he mentioned that there are these wormhole portals to be found in these underground cave systems there. I'd never heard of any of this before in my life in New Zealand. The most I would have heard is that there were some glowworm caves at Te Anau, and that was the extent of it. So I was amazed when I looked this up, and I found out that in fact that there really is these cave systems that go back far further than those glowworm caves, that the public's only allowed up to this point, and then they go back far further. And there's actually a person that I found on Instagram, and he travels through all these amazing rare places in New Zealand, and I had a short word to him through email at one point, but he's actually been in those caves. He went to a certain point and he's got these photos there. I mean, it looked absolutely amazing. It was very, very adventurous of him and brave to do that because they look terrifying. I think one of them is called the knee wrecker entrance, for example, because you have to, it's quite claustrophobic in certain places. And he has these amazing pictures from there, and he's actually been in there. Hopefully he won't mind me putting a couple of his photos here that he took under there so that you can see. I'll put a link to his blog or something. But yeah, I don't believe he made it as far as this part in the center, which is called Rarimu Spiral or something like that. And this is this location that I found on this map that I have of the underground cave. And there's this kind of spiral center point, and Hermes was explaining that there's this kind of wormhole portal thing associated with this location. So basically he was teaching me all of this, and I wrote this down. And the last word that I had written in the book was the word portal, and then I went to sleep. And Hermes is well known as being a bringer of dreams and also a networker and these kinds of things. So as I fell asleep, I started to have these very peculiar dreams. And in the dream, I went into this crystal store where they sell my books in my hometown, and that's a real crystal store, and they really sell my books there. So I was going there in my dream, and I stood there and I looked over to where the books were, and there was just this book there with this picture on the cover of this very strange figure staring at me with these very wide eyes, and he had these mechanical like teeth. And I actually drew a picture. I don't have it here because it's still in New Zealand in my journal, but there's a picture I drew, and it had these like little almost robotic like teeth that he had, and these big wide eyes, and he was just staring at me. And in the dream, the shop owner had to suddenly run out of the room for some reason or another, and I was just staring at this image. And there was something about cards like hearts, diamonds, clubs, and then I think spades was missing. So there was something like this, and I woke up from the dream, and immediately I knew I had to go to the crystal store and see if that book was there. So I just got out of bed almost like in this trance state. It was like 8 in the morning or something, and I went down straight to the crystal store, like literally just got out of bed, threw clothes on, just went straight there. And I walked into the store, and wow, a fish just jumped right out of the water. But yeah, I went down to the store, and I began to tell the shop owner about my dream. And while I was telling him about this dream, he suddenly did have to actually run out of the room, just like it happened in the dream, because there had been some kind of knocking or noise out the back. And he came back in looking all confused, and he said there was nobody there, and I don't know why he had to do that. And then he also got a phone call from an unknown number at the time as well. But anyway, I'm telling him about this dream, and I'm sort of looking behind to see if that book is there on the shelf, and I noticed that there is a book there right where that book was in the dream, except this book has a spiral on it like a portal, and it just says listen or something like that. So I was just listening to the shopkeeper speak, and he went out the back and he brought back these pictures of all these wormhole portals that some artist had brought in there, and they looked very similar to that spiral that I'd seen in my dream and the place that I was looking for. And he said to me, "Have you been to the portal?" And I thought, at this point, I'm like experiencing reality in such this heightened state that I just assumed he knew, and that he was talking about, me having, have I gone to the location at the Diagon caves. And so I said, no, I haven't been there yet. And he said, no, the portal, like here, like in this town. And I said, what do you mean? I've never heard of this kind of thing. And he said, oh, that book over there. And he pointed to the one that said listen with the spiral in the middle. And he said, that book there is written by this guy called Jeremy, and he runs a place called the Portal. And he gave me the location, and I've been in this small town like for so much of my life, never had heard of this place, never had heard anyone mention of it. So I was confused. I thought, how have I never seen this? So, I go to the location, and sure enough, there's this very dark, area that kind of feels like it blocks it out in a way, like I hadn't noticed it because it was dark, and it was closed at the time. And I looked through the window, which had some writing on it saying something like, "We're looking forward to meeting you." And I looked through the window, and there's like this wizard hat sort of sitting on this sort of tree thing, and there's a sign at the back just saying portal, and it has this spinning thing, and I'm looking through there, and there's these horns as well, like some kind of horns or antlers or something like that. So it looked like this quite mysterious location, and I thought, what is this? And they had the opening hours, so I obviously went back when they were open. And so when they were open, I walked in, and there was a woman standing there looking at me with a parrot on her shoulder. I can't even believe this is real life when I think about all of this stuff. And she's looking at me, and I explained to her, I am here because of a dream, and the dream led me here, and then that led me here. And they say, "Oh yeah, we don't advertise in here. That's one of the ways we communicate. We call people in through spirit dreams and things like that. We're not sort of out there overly promoting. It's like we call people in with spirit and intention. The right people come here." And then a woman came in, and I introduced myself. She said, "Oh my God, are you the one who wrote Fairy Magic?" And it turns out that these people knew who I was, like, not know who I look or anything, but they knew my book, Fairy Magic, which they must have bought from the other store, and had been passing it around, and they'd all been reading this book, and they knew who I was already. And so then they introduced me to all these people, and they took me out the back, and it's like this huge place, like with so many floors and so many big things out the back. And it's right next to this strange government house, which has all these underground sort of like bars that you can't get in from the outside, and it looks like there's all this stuff going on underground. So I was kind of like confused what all this is about. And there was also around this time I started to get alopecia, and my beard and my hair just started to completely fall out. It was one of the worst, that part was one of the worst times of my life, because it was like some kind of curse, and it just made me want to hide away even more. And so at that time, I was reaching out to, try and find information about what I could do. And somebody who had repeatedly supported and bought my books at that crystal store where I had them in the town was this person who was a hairdresser, and he was right next to the crystal store. So I contacted him, and I cannot thank him enough, because he actually helped me to grow my hair back and grow my beard back. And he told me these different techniques, and he shaved all my hair off, and then helped me, go through this whole process of growing it back. I'm not entirely, obviously, like I already had thinning hair and was already losing hair at the back, but alopecia was so much worse. It was like in like circles, and it was just a nightmare. But all of that was able to be healed through his help, and he told me a lot of different things, and he has an amazing store there with all of these magical books on every kind of thing that you can imagine, occult magical books and everything. And it was like this whole hangout place that you could go there, and the portal was a whole hangout place that you could go there, and there was this whole underground network of people. I think now the portal place may have actually closed, but at that particular time it was just this thing that appeared after the dream, and I could have utilized it if I wanted. Like, I actually did start selling my books there, and they had a writing club and these kinds of things. I didn't go there too often because of the alopecia, but it was just one of these strange experiences that I just thought, wow, connecting in the ways that I did, it sort of opened up all these different chambers and networks in a place that before was just this completely empty town, nothing happening. And next thing, like overnight, it's like all these new places you can go, communities, people, things happening. And I thought, it's amazing how quick these things can change. And that hairdresser told me about all these underground tunnels beneath that government building near to the portal, which go underneath all of the streets. And there's this whole kind of underground network that goes all the way out to this castle, you know, miles away. And it's all underground. So I had never even heard of this. So this was just this amazing thing that opened up all these new exciting things. And then I started realizing as I would walk and I would find pieces of this underground tunnel in the hometown that I would be in. And there was like bars like where you couldn't get in that they'd put there, and these doors. And I would look in and you could sort of see the beginnings of these underground tunnels. And so this would go all the way out, like I said, to this castle. Anyway, this is a very long story, so I'm trying to condense it down. But basically, all this magical stuff happened. And eventually, it might have been a couple of days or weeks later, I had another dream where I was shown that figure that I had seen on the front of the book. But this time it actually had some information so that I was able to find out who that figure was. And it turned out that the figure that I'd seen on the book was actually one of the Lewis chessmen. And that's why I've got my laptop, because I can't always remember all these details. So I will read out some of what happened there. Okay, so here has my actual original description following as soon as I woke up from the dream. What I had described was there was a very peculiar picture on the front cover of the book of some kind of dwarf-like being with a line of square teeth, and there were words directed at me which were written under the image. That's what I had originally written. And then I said, this is the dream which led me to the store, that then led me to the book on portals, which further led me to the local portal. But in the dream, rather than there being an image of a portal on the book, there was instead this very prominent dwarf-like figure. The main reason I've described him as having a line of square teeth is because one of the most particularly noticeable features seen on the dream book was that the figure appeared to have a row of almost mechanical-like teeth. I also remembered his eyes looking at me and feeling slightly unsettled by them, yet intrigued at the same time. When I went to the spiritual store, I was specifically looking for that very book, but instead cosmically found the book on portals, which further led me on the path described. Several days after visiting the local portal, I received another word in the dream, which was the word fuel, Thule, and I lightly researched the word and found that it refers to the ancient Greek and Latin name for an island or region variously identified as one of the Shetland Islands, Iceland, or Norway, supposed to be the most northerly region of the world. Besides this, I did very little further research on it, but I simply wrote the word down into my journal. Several days after this, I then awoke from a dream about a website dedicated to Lucifer Hermes, and on this website in the dream, I saw the words Hira Laeta, Laeita. I immediately felt the words to be important, and I connected them specifically with Hermes, whose name was shown on the website near the word Hira. Awaking from this dream and researching the mysterious words, I soon stumbled upon a strange book called Orkneyinga Saga, which had the words Hira and Laeta in it. So that's how I was able to find this book. And this book was a narrative of the history of the Shetland Islands, which I had also learned about from that word fuel. So yeah, all these crazy connections, but basically the front cover of the book contained the exact dwarf-like being with a line of square teeth that I'd seen in my dream and described from my dream several days before. And I said this was confirmation to me of having been led to this book for a reason. There was no doubt in my mind upon seeing the front cover that the being was the exact one that I had just seen in my dream several nights before. I am not sure whether what I thought to be teeth in the dream are notches on the shield, but it makes perfect sense why I would have mistaken these for teeth either way. And I left this in because I then wrote, upon closer examination in 3D, it appears these do in fact protrude as teeth would do. The eyes, features, markings, and full details are precisely the same as those I saw in my dream. And this is the picture. I'll show you here. This is from my Book of Hermes. I can't see the camera, so I don't know if this is gonna show, but this is the picture. It did turn out that those actually were teeth, because these beings were known to actually like bite into their shields and stuff. So what I had written under that was, I said, it turns out that this image is of a chessman representing a berserker or knight, walrus ivory, 12th century Scandinavian school in the National Museum of Scotland, Edinburgh. These are known as the Chessmen. Now, I wrote this book in 2022. I'd never visited Scotland before. I came out to Scotland for the very first time in 2024 in November, just for 2 weeks, and I'm out here again now. So it says here, these are known as the Chessmen. They are said to have been found in 1831 on a beach at Lewis, Scotland. And I wrote, it is said that the 11 chess pieces which are on display in the Museum of Scotland were part of a much larger collection buried on Lewis. It is believed that the hoard contained 93 gaming pieces in total, including from at least 4 chess sets and other games. It is also presumed that these were originally made in Norway. So I found that interesting with that number 93 coming up again. And I said that there are some missing. I researched this as well, and I found that a lost Lewis Chessmen piece that had been bought for just £5 in 2019 and kept in a drawer at an Edinburgh home ended up selling for £735,000 in 2019, when it was found that the piece was one of the long-lost Lewis Chessmen. So that's over $1 million New Zealand dollars that one piece sold for. And what is interesting about that is that though the previous owners did not know of its great significance, the piece had been treasured by the family, and the previous owner's late mother has been quoted as saying that she believed it to have almost had magical-like qualities. The purchaser of the item from them has remained anonymous, and it is said that the whereabouts of at least 5 other major pieces still remain a mystery. So there are still pieces out there, presumably, that are worth, like $1 million. One article explains here that since the hoard was uncovered in 1831, 1 knight and 4 warders have been missing from the 4 combined chess sets, and that the discovery of the hoard remains shrouded in mystery. I wrote, I recall being genuinely unsettled and a little intimidated upon seeing the image in my dream of the berserker with its wide eyes and strange teeth. It felt as if he was looking right into my soul and calling to me in some way, but the image burned itself upon my mind so that I certainly recognized it the moment I saw it in the physical plane. So I can still see it, actually. It's just like this clear thing that I saw. And so I'm very intrigued, to think that exact thing that I saw in my dream staring at me that led to all those experiences is now actually in the exact same city that I'm now sitting in, and I can actually go and look at that real piece and see those eyes staring back at me in real physical life after having dreamed of it back in 2022 and written all this stuff about it in my Book of Hermes. To think that I can then go and actually look and see those eyes again staring at me, it's gonna trip me out to see that. I'm still kind of preparing myself mentally for how that will actually feel to see them in real life, because I felt this strange connection to it magnetically, energetically. So I also wrote here in the Book of Hermes that a berserker was thought to have fought in a trance-like fury, and they're mentioned in Old Norse texts. They were thought to exhibit superhuman strength, much like with shape-shifting werewolves that I also talk about in this book. I said berserker has been speculated to stem from bear, like beer, and shirt, to mean a warrior clothed in bear skin, but perhaps this even went beyond what modern people might assume and literally referred to a shape-shifting ability into animal form. I talk in here about berserk frenzy, like people going berserk, and this kind of supernatural strength that they obtain from it. And I was speculating even actual shape-shifting supernatural abilities. And it says this is perhaps what is represented by the teeth on the shield, because they were known to gnaw the rims of their shields, foam at the mouth, and howl like wild beasts in fury at the battles. And then I was speculating that they may have even actually shape-shifted. I'm also thinking of that being in The Hobbit that Tolkien writes about, who's like half bear, half man. And I said here, in the Chronicle of the Kings of Norway, we read of these men, and it says, Odin's men rushed forwards without armor, were as mad as dogs or wolves, bit their shields, and were strong as bears or wild bulls, and killed people at a blow, but neither fire nor iron told upon themselves. These were called berserker. And I also said here, along with the chess pieces referred to earlier, they were found with a belt buckle depicting a diamond with a dot in the middle, further surrounded by 4 swirls to each corner. This again causes me to wonder of potential significance related to the dream that I had of hearts, diamonds, and clubs, yet missing the 4th spades, and the fact that there are said to be potentially 4 different existing chess sets. Whether any of this relates to what Hermes was trying to show me earlier in this book when he taught me about 4 sticks relating to portals, I have absolutely no idea. And then what's crazy is I quote, because Hermes had been showing me this symbolism with 4 sticks at the same time as teaching me about the portals, I quoted Led Zeppelin here. Brave I endure, strong shields and lore, and they can't hold the wrath of those who walk in the boots of those who march through the roads of time so long ago. And I wrote under it 4 Sticks Led Zeppelin, because the name was 4 Sticks, and it was said to have been called 4 Sticks because in something to do with the drummer. But see, I've quoted that here on the exact same page where I was talking about the Lewis Chessmen, of which there are 93 pieces. Little did I know that when I would go to see Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin perform in London, that the one song that he would play of Led Zeppelin, because he was playing his solo music as Robert Plant, the one song that he would play from Led Zeppelin was 4 Sticks out of all the songs that he might have played.
When the rivers run dry, baby, how will you feel? When the rivers run dry, baby, how will we feel?
So that is very interesting that I wrote about this in 2022, had no idea I was going to be living in Edinburgh for the time that I have been years later, had no idea I was going to go and see Robert Plant perform 4 Sticks, which I quoted in the same thing, had no idea I was going to go and meet the singer of Current 93 and all the connections with 93, and that this would somehow also remind me of the 93 pieces of the chess pieces. It just seems very interesting how all these things are sort of all merging together. So I feel a strong calling that I have to go and see these chess pieces in person. I think 11 of them are here in Edinburgh, and I think 80 something of them are in London, which I wasn't aware of at the time, and I probably didn't have enough time to go and look for them there. But that berserker warrior that I saw specifically in the dream, and which was staring at me and calling to me, is actually found in the Edinburgh Museum here. So I'm going to go and find that exact one that I saw in my dream and look at it face to face. So I'm really excited to see what that will bring. My friend Keti Zasheva, she did the cover artwork for the Book of Hermes, and she actually helped me write the book. And there were several notes that she wrote throughout the book. And after this chapter, what she had written here was that the statue with the teeth is called a warder, which denotes one who guards a door or gate, or a soldier who is set to guard an entrance. I'm very interested to find out what will come through when I actually get to see this piece in person and finally connect up the pieces from my dream of 2022. I've always been very intrigued about this fact that there's pieces missing and that there's still pieces to be found, and even the fact that the person who did find them and sold that for £750,000 was actually just here in Edinburgh and found it in some drawer, and he originally purchased it for like £5. So I'm like, where are the others? Where are the other pieces? Scooby. I had to run to get it, but it did say on the side, route diverted, so no idea where it's diverted to. Conveniently, there are also no charging ports on this bus, so I'll probably film more once I'm actually there. I think I'm pretty close now. Got off the bus. I have no idea what it even looks like, but it should be around here. Oh, there it is. National Museum of Scotland. Closes at 5 and it's 4:20, I think. So I've got like 40 minutes to find these things. I should probably look up which floor they're on. I like the lighting in here. There's a lot of planes and trains and big statues. There are not. Wow, this building is amazing. Incredible. This is very interesting. It's like a time machine. Google says that they're on the ground floor, so perhaps I will find them. Oh my god. Is this an Egyptian mummy? Oh my god, that's so what? That's so what? What? Very haunting, like it's like so long ago and this body, like a real body is in there. That is, the teeth don't look real. I don't know. Okay, dinosaurs and camels. Perfect combination. So cool. I've never been to Egypt yet, so I don't even know if that's a normal size camel. But it looks giant to me. If camels really are that big, then I really underestimated the size of the camel. It's bigger than this panda bear. Polar bear? Polar bear. Fox. This is a giant elephant. Much, much bigger than it looks. And wow. It'd be so cool if it talked. I got distracted again. I'm supposed to find the chess pieces before it closes, and now I'm just stuck looking at lions and stuff because these are the coolest. But yeah, I need to find these. Oh, we have lots of these in New Zealand. Wallabies. Okay, I'm gonna go find these chess pieces now. Hi, where might I find the Lewis Chessmen?
These chessmen, through the archway,
Uh-huh.
walk into the building next door, then turn to the left at the Kingdom of Scots, so just as you walk
Through there and
in.
then left. Cool, thank you so much. Cool, I'm gonna find them now. Let's see. I guess I just didn't take the right turn when I was coming in through the archway because I got distracted by the statue. I'm still not finding them. I'm never good at understanding instructions. Oh, good thing I filmed the instructions. Now I can just listen to them again. Okay, I'm gonna re-listen to those.
Through the archway,
Uh-huh.
walk into the building next door, then turn to the left at the Kingdom of Scots, so just as you walk
Through there and
in.
then left. Cool, thank you so much. It sounded like he said through the archway and then turn a left at the Kingdom of Scots. But I don't know what the Kingdom of Scots is. I'm through the archway. I turned left.
Hi there.
Where do I find the Lewis Chess?
Lewis Chessmen, you're quite near.
Very
If you
close.
go through that door over there,
Over there.
take a left.
Oh, okay.
Basically in the centre of that next
Thank you so much. Cool. All right, I missed yet another door. Okay. I shall find these. It's hard enough to find them in the museum, let alone in the world. The missing pieces. Imagine if I could find the missing pieces, but I couldn't even find them in the museum. That would be very, very funny. Oh my gosh, I know what this is. These are the pink stones. I wrote about these in my Book of Earth. That is amazing just to see these in person, actually. I put those symbols in the Book of Earth. It's a Pictish symbol. History is silent on the meaning of these. There's known connection to some of these too. No wonder. Okay, now I will find these pieces. They must be around here somewhere. There's a big X here. They certainly are not seeming to magnetically pull me in the direction of where they are. But once I see them, I think it will lead to something interesting. Can you believe I still haven't found them? The mystery of the missing Lewis chessmen. I can't even find the found pieces. I'm so bad at following instructions. And when I tune in, I just end up over at that picked stone again. Now I found some other strange tunnel. I want to find them soon because it is actually getting very close to 5 now. I'm so confused how I could have possibly missed them. This is hilarious. They're like completely evading me. Oh, I see Kingdom of the Scots written here, so I must be close because I remember the first instruction said something about that.
In the archway,
Uh-huh.
walk into the building next door, then turn left at the Kingdom of Scots, and just as you
Through
walk
there and then
across.
left. Chess.
Lewis Chessmen, you're quite near.
Very close.
So through that door over there,
Over there.
take a left.
Oh, okay.
Basically in the centre of that next
Thank you
gallery.
so much. Can you believe it? They were right in front of me all along. As soon as I walked through here, that's them right there in the glass, and I walked past them. That's insane. Okay, found them. They're actually smaller than I even imagined. That's the one from my dream right there. It's very intriguing because when I saw that whale earlier, I specifically mentioned that its teeth looked fake. And then this says that 2 of these pieces are carved from sperm whale teeth. And I wonder if some of these are fake. These 2 look very different, that one and that one. This almost has a baboon kind of look to it. He's holding his hand to his right cheek, and he's also holding his hand to his right cheek. But if they're supposed to be either side, I would assume one would hold their hand to their left. Fascinating. I am absolutely amazed by the main one that I saw in my dream. Was very interesting to see in real life. They're calling me back to have one more look at them before I leave. And just see if I can tune into their energy a little bit more. It'd be great if there would be a way to tune into their energy and then sense or feel where the missing pieces were.
Okay.
So it's closing and I gotta leave. Can't even remember if I climbed upstairs to get here, but I probably did. So I guess I'll go down the stairs. Turns out I didn't walk down, upstairs to get there because I just got told I had to walk up the stairs to leave. Okay. This way. All right, and apparently there's actually a cafe very near to here where J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter. So it'd be interesting to find that. That's the magical dog that people believe if they touch the nose, they get luck or something. And so many people have touched it that it's rubbed the marking off it, and apparently they don't like it when people do it or something. So, very interesting. And yeah, I looked up that cafe, the Elephant House, where she was said to write Harry Potter. And speaking of that number 93, it had 93 reviews on Google, funnily enough. But I said, how do you walk there? And it said there's no path to walk there. Everything is driving or biking or something. And then I couldn't find a way to walk there. So I don't understand why, because it should be within walking distance. I guess I'll just walk the path that you can bike, because it makes very little difference. Maybe I need to, maybe it'll be like one of those things where you have to walk through a brick wall or something. Let's see. Well, the map just went straight in to there. And that's where the guy with the Harry Potter kind of like glasses was looking, so I thought maybe, no, I don't know. It's like this invisible place. Oh, maybe you have to go through here. A dark alleyway. It's interesting because if you look on the shape of the map, at first I saw it like a snake shape, and then it looked very similar to a sickle, which is also very connected to Thoth and Hermes. And funnily enough, earlier I actually took a photo of a sickle-shaped stick that was on the ground when I just started filming this whole video, and it looks like that same shape on the map. This kind of like serpent thing leading to this location, which I cannot seem to find anywhere for some reason. Push bar to open. That doesn't work. Unless you have to push it really hard. Okay, I don't know where the fuck I am. No wonder she wrote it at this place. You can't like get there. It's like guarded by the serpent or the sickle. And as soon as you walk anywhere near it, it just doesn't work. Unless I have to go through there, but like I don't want to get killed. Like just this gate. It is through here, I don't know. I'm walking through a dark, scary alley. And then you have to walk under a bridge. Is that like bad luck or something? So maybe you have to walk up here. Or maybe you can't be superstitious. I don't know what the rules are. Let's see. That actually might have worked. I have to say, that was not a fun place to walk. I certainly wouldn't be going through there at night, and it would be very difficult to escape from if they shut all the gates. Well, I did find it by walking through there. Here it is, the Elephant Cafe, magical cafe. It's guarded by the serpent. Very interesting. It says, known around the world as the birthplace of Harry Potter. Oh, there's a snake there. I knew there was something about a snake.
Ja, das ist nur so irritierend, wenn man dann immer erst gucken muss.
It really does have a very magical feeling in there, actually. I like that. I like that cafe. It's very interesting. Now I wonder, do I have to walk back through that alleyway and stuff? Well, I made it. There were literally 6 people on the bus in a row, all wearing Harry Potter looking glasses, like all in a row. It was like I was on there with all these replicas. It was very funny.